The summer may be winding down, but here at Fresh Outlook, we're gearing up for a busy show where we talk about the most talked about topics of the week. Hello, everyone. I'm Toschi. As always, thank you for your company. We begin the week with a near tragedy as kids are just heading back to school this week. Just a few miles outside of downtown Atlanta, a man slips into an elementary school armed with an AK-47 assault rifle. But that's just part of the story. We'll talk about how the compassion of one woman possibly saved many lives. We're also going to be speaking with a leading expert on the Fukushima disaster after another major leak was discovered this week. Here in the U.S., many major companies, including Delta Airlines, are hoping to ground Obamacare. The airline released a statement this week saying that Obamacare is going to cost them $100 million next year alone. So flying may become a little more expensive. We'll have to keep an eye on that. So maybe you might want to think about a new electric car for your travels. We will also take a look at one company that is plugging into success. But first, how one woman's compassion saved lives this week. Antoinette Tuff is being hailed a hero after a gunman entered the elementary school where she was working, but she didn't run from the gunman. She talked to him. Let's take a listen to the 911 call.
Police arrested a 20-year-old man for opening fire with an AK-47 inside an elementary school in the Atlanta suburbs. Michael Brandon Hill faces multiple charges after police say he slipped into Ronald E. McNair Discovery Learning Academy and held 2 staff members in the front office captive.
He entered that property. Coming in, we suspect behind someone. He was armed with an AK-47 and a number of other weapons. When we received a call and we engaged, he started to fire from inside of the school at our officers.
Hill fired his rifle into the air, causing 800 students to flee the building and run for cover outside. Police say Hill, a convicted felon, had nearly 500 rounds of ammunition with him. Police rushed to the scene while Antoinette Tuff, a front office worker, began trying to disarm Hill with words of comfort.
He actually tried to go out the door where the kids was, and I called him back and kept talking to him to keep him calm, to stay inside with me. Because I knew that if he got outside, that he was going to start shooting the kids. And so I just told him to stay in there with me so the police officers and nobody would kill him.
Shortly after she talked him down, Hill surrendered to police. Hill is charged with aggravated assault on a police officer, making terroristic threats, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. No one was injured in the ordeal. Many attribute overall safety to the local law enforcement and the school administrators. School safety and regulations have been the center of attention after the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy.
And we talked about that 911 call by Antoinette Tuff. Now let's take a listen to that.
In the front office. Oh, he just went outside and started shooting. Okay. Oh, can I run?
Can you get somewhere safe?
Yeah, I gotta go. You know, he gonna see me running and coming back.
Everybody, this is still a continuous lockdown. The government wants to let everybody know that he is sorry. He does not want to harm anybody. And everybody stay in place until the lockdown is over.
It's gonna be all right, sweet. I just want you to know that I love you, though, okay? And I'm proud of you. That's a good thing that you just given up, and don't worry about it. We all go through something in life. Hello?
Yes.
And joining us now is former White House aide Dee Dee Benkie, political psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi, and media analyst Jackie Guzda. And joining us via Skype is Cheri Love. She has 30 years experience in crisis response and trauma intervention. And Cheri, we want to turn to you first since you are an expert in this field. We listened to that 911 call where she tells this gunman who he came at her with an assault rifle, and she actually speaks to him with love. And just talk to us a little bit about this. You know, we've been hearing about gunmen being put into schools to combat violence, but what about training people in compassion? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there isn't a better place to start. I mean, if you want to talk about prevention, really what this young man needed was a good dose of that a long, long time ago. And we can't know what happened. We don't know his particular history, but there's a principal in Walla Walla, Washington, who's dropped his expulsion, suspension, and discipline rate by 87% by not starting with discipline. He starts when a kid misbehaves with, tell me what's going on. And then he goes from there. And I'm not a proponent that we don't have discipline at all, but that certainly reaching a kid in the heart is the first place to go.
And when we talk about just society in general, and we've been hearing so much about these school shootings, unfortunately, Newtown, of course, is the worst of the tragedies. But when we hear about this, what can society learn from this particular instance?
Well, I think we have to be careful not to generalize a lot. This may not have worked at all if this young man would have been manifesting, for instance, paranoid schizophrenia and was there hearing voices. But that we know that the vast majority of school shootings that have been stopped because someone has told what they know and they've been able to reach that child or prevent it in some other way. So backing up a long way from guns at schools is where we need to start with what we do about prevention.
Well, Cheri, you hold on there. We also want to talk to our panel right now. And boy, I'll tell you, you listened to those calls, and that was just amazing when she tells him that she loves him. And Dr. Bart, let's go weigh in on this as well, since you're also a psychologist.
Well, most of the shooters have a profile. It's anger that moves into a retained anger, as psychologists call it, and then that moves into a rage. It generates into a rage against society. And for this woman to actually do what she did and how she did it and the mindset that she had is really impressive. I mean, she really does deserve some kind of medal. I don't know what it is, but I can't tell you how impressed I am as a psychologist with her.
Well, I'll tell you, we'll get back to that, but there is a Facebook page that they want her to get the Medal of Honor, and so she's got several thousand likes already, so we'll see where that goes. Right. But I think what's amazing also, Dee Dee and Jackie, just the fact that she had 2 children, and one of them was blind was hearing impaired, and she still showed such compassion. And just what your thoughts were. I mean, I think everybody's just amazed. I don't think anybody's going to disagree on this particular topic.
I think she's a much better person than I could ever be. I mean, look what she did. Instead of going in there and reaching for a gun, which statistically would show would be knocked out of her hand or she would have gotten shot first, she stopped a mass killing of children in its tracks. And I think we should have more compassion training. I'm there with you.
Well, a wonderful woman, for sure. And I think her last name certainly says something about her. She's a tough lady. And
she's actually called Miss Tuff in the
definitely,
school.
for sure. And but so lucky and so wonderful, and really a strong woman, and someone we should all admire, of course, and obviously saved a lot of lives, I'm sure. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't double up and have guns as well in schools. I think having armed guards at schools can be good, because just as the guest said, who knows, maybe it's schizophrenic or somebody who's really crazy and really unreachable, a lot of lives could have been lost. So I think it's good to double up. Yeah, compassion's great. It's not always going to work. It worked this time, thank goodness.
Well, hopefully the compassionate response will come first.
I think that having armed guards in the school system is just the wrong idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I think having more guns is going to result in a situation that might not have happened in this situation. More guns might have resulted in a shootout. And I think that having armed guards means what? Machine guns?
It means that the children are safe, because you have some crazy people with guns, so we want to make sure the children are safe. Look, compassion, I'm glad it worked this time, but it doesn't always.
I want to turn to Cheri right now. She's had 30 years experience. I know you worked with a lot of the schools after September 11th, Cheri. When you come to something like this with these students who were involved in this threat, and also the kids who have seen this on television, how do you deal with the kids now? How do you teach them not to be afraid to go to school?
Well, I think one of the things we have to remember is that if we look at general statistics, we lose about 11 kids a year in school violence, but we lose 11 kids every day to gun violence outside of school. So one of the things I want to keep reinforcing with students is school is probably the safest place to be, around hundreds of times safer than what it is when you're playing at a friend's house after school and somebody has a gun. So what we know is that if we look at how many million children are in school every day and how many million children come home safe every day, the first part is to help kids understand that media makes it look like it's happening often and everywhere. But the truth is our kids are remarkably safe in school. So that's the first step. The second one is reminding kids that although lots of people get angry and parents get upset, that for people to take drastic steps like this is extremely rare. So one starting place is that. And the next one is to work with all the kids in all our schools to talk about what would help you feel safe here? What would you like us to do that would help you feel safe, so the kids not only feel listened to, but are listened to?
Well, I want to touch on a subject right now, and that is, why do we think that maybe society has lost some of our compassion? And Dr. Bart, again, I'm going to throw that one to you first.
I think our society is looking at numbers, everybody being successful, and we're missing people in the whole scenario today. We're in the electronic age, and we're not really looking at people and their personalities and what really works in life. We have husbands and wives who both need jobs, and we're moving past people into making money, and we're into a culture now that is not sensitive to the needs of people and their well-being. I think that's where we're going.
Jackie, you're shaking your head yes.
Yeah, and on top of that, to add to it, is that the generation now in their 20s and 30s, they were raised during the quote-unquote self-esteem movement. And Barney the Purple Dinosaur told them that they were special, they were unique, there's no one quite like them, and they grew up believing it. And so there's this whole big concentration of me, me, me. I've got to make the most money, I'm the most special, I'm the most important, and compassion, the we, goes out the window.
Well, it's interesting. Time magazine actually did have a cover just about a month ago that said the me generation. Dee Dee, I got a shaking of the head on that one.
I'm going to be a little. I feel like for once I'm going to be the positive one here because I really think that we've got some good folks in the world and it's not that bad. But we do have some mentally ill people, so I don't think this situation should make us think that we're not a good society or compassionate. I think all of us here would have tried to been helpful with that. I mean, this lady was really tough and wonderful, but I think for the most part people are good, and you know, we just have mentally ill folks who cause problems and have situations like this, and it was handled well this time.
Oh, we want to get some final thoughts, but I do want to get a question in for everybody. I mentioned the Facebook page of Antoinette Tuff and whether she should get the Medal of Honor, and we'll weigh in with Cheri first. Cheri, should she get the Medal of Honor, and also if you can provide us with your final thoughts?
Gosh, you know, I don't really know the parameters and rules around who it is gets medals of honor, but I think she's just a terrific model for all of us, and that this situation is as well. I don't know what she deserves, but certainly something. And at the same time, what we know is that there are lots of unsung heroes in our world. She's a great example of one.
Well, Cheri, thank you so much for joining us. And I think everybody will be happy to know that apparently there were baskets of flowers coming to her from all 800 families from that school. So she certainly did get some recognition, including a phone call from the president.
From the president. Yes. The right thing to do.
He should invite her to the Oval Office. That should be the next.
I bet you she might get an invite. Final thoughts on this, everybody. We won't touch on guns, but just about compassion training in general.
I think that our society should and must go back to a more compassionate time.
We need more mental health understanding, more money for mental health. Mental health treatment works, but how does it work if we don't engage in it? And
I also will, we're not going to touch on guns, but how did a mentally ill gentleman get an AK-47 assault rifle? That's certainly going to be a question. Dee Dee, final thoughts?
Well, I think Dr. Bart's right. I think we really do need to address mental health much more in the society, and I think that having any secure area is a good and helps with safety in schools and elsewhere.
Well, this was certainly a positive story. I think we all agree that Antoinette Tuff is certainly our hero of the week. So thank you very much, and don't go away, everyone. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a leading expert about the latest crisis to strike the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan.